We're so delighted to share a recent addition to the Allens collection. This is the portrait of Zaga Christ, made in 1635 by the Italian woman artist Giovanna Garzoni. It is the earliest known European portrait miniature to depict a black sitter. We don't know very much about Zaga Christ's early life, but in 1632 he arrived at the Venetian consulate in Cairo, claiming to be the rightful king of the Christian kingdom of Ethiopia, and that he had fled Ethiopia after his father was killed. This story doesn't align with what we know about the history of Ethiopia at this moment, but the Franciscans he met welcomed him and facilitated his journey, first to Jerusalem and then to Rome. He traveled throughout the Italian peninsula, and in the winter of 1634 and 1635, he found himself in the northern city of Turin, where he stayed at the court of the Duke of Savoy. Ethiopia had long held a very prominent place in the European Christian imagination. The kingdom's rulers had adopted Christianity in the 4th century, and delegations of Ethiopians came to Europe in increasing numbers around the 1300s, seeking to forge pan-Christian alliances. It was around that time that a legend formed of a powerful Black Christian ruler named Prester John, who was often associated with Ethiopia. When Zaga Christ arrived in Europe, the Europeans he encountered were pretty familiar with Ethiopian travelers. There was even a center in Rome for Ethiopian pilgrims that was also a center for Ethiopian language and culture. But many were particularly excited and intrigued to meet or hear of him because of this legend of Prester John. Some sought to help him return to Ethiopia to reclaim the throne, while others were suspicious of his story, and they questioned if he was truly who he claimed to be. When Zaga Christ was in Turin, he met the artist Giovanna Garzoni, who was working at the court as the miniature painter to the Duchess of Savoy, and she painted this portrait there. We don't know why it was made, but miniatures were often exchanged as gifts, and it's possible that Christ commissioned it to bring to the French court, which he visited after leaving Turin. Garzoni's treatment of Zaga Christ is extraordinarily sensitive and sympathetic. Often at this time, European paintings might show a wealthy aristocrat with an enslaved Black person, or depict one of the 3 kings in scenes of the Adoration of the Magi as Black. But there are very few instances of Black sitters being depicted as individualized people, rather than as generic types. This is clear in a fictionalized French image of Zaga Christ made just a few years later, which shows him in an uncomfortably exoticized way with a large turban on his head. Garzoni, in contrast, takes great care to record Zaga Christ's features. He is shown in the fashionable dress of the courts of Europe at the time, with his hair grown out to match the style in Turin. On the reverse, the miniature is signed not once, but twice. First in a Latin script, with Garzoni's Italian name, and then in Amharic, an Ethiopian language. Scholars of the language have noted that the letters are formed poorly, suggesting that it was written by someone unfamiliar with the language, most likely the artist herself. If that's the case, this is a remarkable testament to the relationship between artist and sitter, and to the artist's curiosity and interest in the sitter's origins. This is perhaps not surprising for Garzoni. Like Zaga Christ, she also traveled extensively, and quite remarkably for a woman at the time. She worked across Italy, but she also went to England and to France. Her later work also demonstrates a fascination with natural specimens and goods imported to Europe from across the globe, from China to Mexico. So she really was thinking globally about her place and the relationship between Europe and the rest of the world. This miniature opens up a broad range of exciting questions, from the sitter's self-fashioning and cultural negotiation as he traveled throughout Europe, to the artist's identity and career as a woman working in the great European courts. Currently installed in our galleries, it serves as an entry point to conversations about exchange and mobility in the 1600s and 1700s, allowing us to think broadly about the movement of people, both by choice and by force, and of objects and ideas, all of which allow us to look at familiar works in our collection in new ways.